target has superhuman abilities.
The 2021 Mortal Kombat reboot stirred up some very different reactions from critics and general viewers, making the sequel's job all the more interesting. It now has to bridge that noticeable gap between what fans loved and what critics weren't all that impressed by. The film, based on the famously violent American fighting game series, tried something bold, reintroducing the franchise with fresh elements, a darker tone, and more intense action. And it arrived during the unique time when movies were releasing both in theaters and on HBO Max, which made it one of the more talked-about action films during the pandemic era. What set it apart from the 90s versions is that it actually tried to stick a little closer to the source material, at least in spirit. But in doing that, it also took some liberties that ended up steering it further away from what longtime fans might have expected. One of the biggest differences is how the 2021 version embraced its R rating. Unlike the earlier PG-13 adaptations, this reboot didn't shy away from the blood and brutality that the games are known for. But it also made some big changes to the core story, like introducing Cole Young, a brand new character, and coming up with the Arcana system, which gave fighters their powers in a way that's not part of the games. Even though the movie leaned hard into the violence and spectacle, it didn't quite win everyone over. Critics were especially split. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score hovers at just 55%, while audiences gave it a much more enthusiastic 85%. That's a pretty wide gap, a whole 30%, which really shows how much the movie worked for some and not for others. It's kind of easy to see why. People looking for a good time with over-the-top fights, gory finishers, and their favorite video game characters probably had fun with it. But those hoping for a well-structured story and strong character development might have felt let down. One major complaint was that despite being called Mortal Kombat, the actual tournament never even happens in the film. Instead, most of the fights feel like warm-ups, characters picking each other off before the big event even starts. Another sore spot was Cole Young himself. Critics didn't hold back when pointing out that he felt like a flat, generic character. He didn't have much of a personal arc and instead seemed like a basic stand-in for the audience, someone to guide us through this new world without really doing anything all that compelling. Plus, Lewis Tan's performance didn't exactly help matters, as many felt it lacked the energy and charisma needed to carry a movie like this. But here's the thing. Mortal Kombat as a franchise has never really been about Oscar-worthy storytelling. People come for the spectacle, the outlandish characters, and of course, the epic fights. And when it came to that, the film definitely delivered. The action sequences were full of energy, the choreography stood out, and some characters like Scorpion and Sub-Zero got moments that were downright thrilling. Their feud, in particular, was one of the movie's highlights. That bitter rivalry added a dramatic edge that even the harshest critics had to admit was pretty compelling. Now, with Mortal Kombat 2 on the horizon, there's a real opportunity to win over those skeptical critics while still giving fans more of what they loved. One of the smartest moves the sequel is making is putting Johnny Cage front and center, played by Karl Urban. He's a fan favorite from the games, and his cocky, self-aware humor could be just the injection of personality the story needs. The dynamic between Johnny and Liu Kang, two skilled fighters with totally different personalities, could be the key to making the character side of the movie a lot more engaging. It would also help if the sequel dropped the slow training montages and spent more time on the actual tournament. That was a major issue in the first film, a lack of real stakes and momentum. If Mortal Kombat 2 builds a clearer story structure around a proper tournament with real consequences, critics might be more willing to get on board, and fans will get the payoff they were hoping for last time. And what really has fans buzzing is the fact that this time, the actual Mortal Kombat tournament is going to happen. That opens the door for a bunch of new fights and characters, and that alone already sounds like a major improvement. The end of the 2021 film hinted at so many possibilities, and the sequel seems ready to deliver on them. Since Shang Tsung failed in his attempt to conquer Earthrealm in the last movie, he's back with reinforcements, and this time, Shao Kahn will step into the spotlight as the big bad. He's the Emperor of Outworld and is known in the games for being ruthless. With him overseeing the tournament, we can expect some of the most intense matchups yet. Take Liu Kang versus Shang Tsung, for example. Even though they were both in the first film, they never actually fought each other, which is a big deal, considering their rivalry in the games. Shang Tsung killed Kung Lao in the first film, so Liu Kang definitely has a reason to seek revenge. That fight could give Liu Kang a chance to shine more than he did in the previous movie, where he felt kind of sidelined. Then there's the rematch fans are dying to see: Scorpion versus Noob Saibot. At the end of the first movie, Scorpion and Cole teamed up to defeat Sub-Zero, aka Bi-Han. But in the sequel, Bi-Han will return as Noob Saibot, and this time we might get a one-on-one fight that really lets their rivalry take center stage. What's more, the introduction of Quan Chi could shake things up. In some game timelines, he's actually the one who orchestrated the death of Scorpion's family, not just Sub-Zero. So if the sequel leans into that backstory, we could be looking at another epic showdown between Scorpion and Quan Chi, two iconic NetherRealm characters who've got a lot of history and power between them. And let's not forget about Johnny Cage. He's likely to be the comedic relief of the movie, but he's also a skilled fighter, and seeing him face off against someone like Baraka, who's known for being brutal and terrifying, would be a great way to show the contrast between Cage's flashy arrogance and the harsh reality of the tournament. It could also humble him early in the story and make his arc more satisfying. We also might see Liu Kang go up against Kitana. She's originally from Edenia and ends up rebelling against Shao Kahn in the game's lore. If the movie includes her as someone who starts off fighting for Outworld but eventually switches sides, a first-round fight between her and Liu Kang could set up a romance later on, just like in the games. That would bring some emotional variety to the action-heavy plot and show that alliances in Mortal Kombat aren't always set in stone. And of course, what would a proper Mortal Kombat movie be without a climactic battle against a top villain? A final showdown between Liu Kang and Shao Kahn would be the perfect way to wrap up the tournament. Not only would it redeem Liu Kang's limited role in the first film, but it would also raise the stakes to their absolute highest, since if Shao Kahn wins, Earthrealm is doomed. Watching Liu Kang rise to the challenge as Earthrealm's champion would be an epic way to end the movie, with all the other fighters watching as the fate of their world hangs in the balance. In the end, Mortal Kombat 2 has a real chance to bring everything together. By introducing more compelling characters, actually delivering the tournament fans were promised, and tightening the storytelling, it could turn around the mixed reception of the first film. And with so many exciting matchups in the works, there's a good reason to believe this sequel could be a real game changer for the franchise. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.